Hi guys, and welcome back to 5-9 Gaming. This is the Master Ningen, and we are here with some special guests from Global, as well as our boy LR, to talk about this whole situation with the Global New Year Step Up banner, the refunds, UI Goku, all that crazy stuff. Lots of things have been going on over the last day or two, and finally everything has come to a head and been resolved. So we're going to talk about what exactly happened and our thoughts on the situation. So going from the very top, obviously the New Year Step Up banner came out as we all expected it would. And I think most people, I know for me personally, no one really noticed this issue like straight away when the banner was first dropped. I don't know if the same is for you guys, but I think it was Zahal maybe. I just saw people talking about it on Twitter. So how did you guys find out about what exactly was going on?
I think it was somebody mentioned it, either it was on stream. No, it was definitely not on stream. I was knocked out because I'm not gonna lie, it was New Year's. I had done my summons. I was a bit tipsy to say the least, and I had gone to sleep. So the next morning, I think I woke up and I saw people talking about it in my Discord, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I didn't know if it was intentional at the time or not still, and then obviously we found out that obviously it wasn't intentional because there was no mention of the fact that UI Goku was supposed to only be on the 5th step or anything. So clearly there was something afoot, I guess is the best way to put it. So yeah, I mean, it was it took me a while to find out about it for sure. I think it was a solid 12 to 13 hours before I found out about it.
And had you summoned on the banner before, you said, or?
Oh yeah, no, I think it was like just as the banner went live, I'd done one rotation and then I stopped because I'd not planned on going any further in the rotation or doing anything else with the banner.
Yeah,
because I was trying to save up for SSJ for Gogeta, so I was just focused.
Yeah, well, I was the same mindset because my account is definitely at that point where, like, I think the first 3 steps for me were pretty much completely useless. So I had decided to hold off at least until some of this stuff started to go down. But we'll get to that next step in a minute. Ty, what about you? Did you summon as soon as the banner came out, or?
Yeah, so me and Alec waited couple hours after the banner came out, and then we did a little summon party after he sobered up just a little bit. Afterwards, like, I was kind of bummed about my LR summons, but I was like, nothing of it. I go to bed and then woke up, I would say about 8 hours later to Twitter, and everybody's, going, "Oh, UI Goku," and all this different stuff, and people getting SSJ3 Goku instead, and it was a shock. It really was. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it was definitely... people were not happy. Once it got, like anything, like these things do, once it sort of got out on Twitter, it was all I saw anyone talking about. And so, of course, around that time, we had an episode of the podcast where we had a very heated section. I'm sure, Glody, you guys out there were either there or have rewatched it. And those of you who were there live saw the Twitch chat, or people who've seen the video have probably seen the comment section. There's a whole lot of discussion going back and forth about false advertising, what exactly the banner specifically said when you drill down into it, and a lot of people very mad because obviously whether or not you want to get down into the technicalities, obviously UI Goku was very prominent on the celebration artwork, if not particularly the banner, and obviously with the way banners normally work, most people would have gone into this assuming that he was going to be available just like any other unit throughout the steps. So I think this is the first time something major like this has happened with a banner on Global. There's been like minor issues in the past, but I believe this is the first time something like this has happened. And of course, it's not the first time something like this has happened in the game at all. So Nala, you've been playing for a long time. I'm sure you were around. Was it the Rose banner? Was the big refund thing? So what was the situation with that?
Yeah, so this was December 2017, New Year's, December of 2017, going into 2018. It was the Tech Vegito Blue Dual Dokkan Fest with Strength Rose. And the issue was Strength Rose's banner, the artwork prominently showed Super Saiyan 3 Broly, but not as a SSR, but as his TUR form. Again, same kind of situations in a way, but not really, in the sense that it's the same timing issue where it was New Year's itself, the celebration, and this is a New Year step up for Global now. But yeah, back then it was the artwork was there. I think it went live, was up for a couple of hours. I went to bed. The banner was down, and then all of a sudden I got refunds. I was like, "Oh, okay, what just happened?" So for me, because I don't live in Japan, at that time period when it was going live, that was a big deal because taking down a banner is, and then was just unheard of. I mean, it happened once before in another situation on JP, like 5-6 months beforehand. But it was a big deal that they just everything used was refunded. Unfortunately, me personally, I only did 2 rotations on that banner because I got lucky pulling Rose early and then went really deep trying to find a Tech Vegetal Blue. Couldn't get one for 2,000 plus stones. But yeah, so like it was a big deal to us because we were like, oh, okay. And I think we got 5 or 7 stones as compensation on top of that. The refunded part, but yeah, this is why like this initial issue with Global, I was like, this kind of reminds me of that, but I'm not exactly sure how they're going to handle it, because as we know, very obviously and objectively, Global doesn't necessarily get the best compensation. So
yeah.
And
it sounds like the time frame then for that turnaround seems like it was a lot quicker.
7 hours, I think. Yeah.
Wow.
But I think to give credit where it's due in terms of the turnaround here, we have to also remember that this was during the New Year's, so nobody's at work at that time. You know, most people are either on break and stuff like that. And this is the reason why I think Nolar and I mentioned this in another video for, I think it was another gacha game, I think it was. And we were talking about them launching over the New Year's and how it isn't the best idea because usually you want everybody on hand for a launch game, right? And it's the same thing here. If there's something, if it's something breaks, you want people on deck, and nobody was on deck for this one. And so that's why it took like 3 days, I think.
Yeah.
It was 3 days since then the banner went down, I think, on the 4th or the 5th. So yeah, it was a 3-day turnaround basically to get the banner down entirely in the first place, and then obviously it took another day or 2 for refunds and stuff to be sent out. So yeah, it's just bad timing because of the New Year's, and hence why I feel like I can't say that it was all like, you know, it was just because it's Global, but it's more so it was because of bad timing basically, more than anything else.
Yeah, just to jump in real quick, you got to remember, guys, Bandai and Akatsuki run the global version in Japan, and New Year's is the biggest holiday, I would say, of the year. So like they usually take 2-3 days off, celebrate with family and stuff. And so even though it's global, it's still ran by the guys in Japan. It's just a different division compared to the JP version of Dokkan.
Yeah.
So you can't just be like, oh my god, it took JP 7 hours. Well, guess what? That banner came out, I think, on the 26th or the 28th, where people are still in the office. So if there's a big deal there, that can be dealt with immediately. But when did this go live? Practically New Year's, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it makes sense, and people are always going to say like, well, look, JP gets treated better, but it's like, come on, guys, be real, look at it. When JP had that issue, people were in the office. When you guys had it for Global, no one was in the office. So that's why it took a little longer. And you got to also remember too, it's not just the JP side of like the physical location. You got to look at all the other branches in North America, in Europe, in South America. Like they've got to communicate and coordinate that as well to make sure it's like, okay, do we have to enforce some laws, or what are the strictest law we have to adhere to make that an international standard, as opposed to on the JP version, they know the JP law inside and out, and that's all they have to adhere to. So it's just going to take a little more time, a little more work. So that's why it took extra.
And I think obviously that doesn't help. I think the biggest issue was for the community was the fact that we didn't really hear anything within such a short time. So I've got the update up on the screen. So the banner went away, and we just got an update saying it was temporarily closed, that they were investigating the matter, and then we would be updated with an announcement. I think that was up for a good like 12 hours. And then we just got an update saying that the investigation was continuing and that measures would be taken. So that was where people first started to speculate about actually a refund finally happening, because again, nothing like this had ever happened on Global before. And then it took a little bit longer for the update to come out, and we were talking about it pre-recording, but obviously being UK time, I waited until the daily update when we normally get like the new celebration announcements and all that kind of stuff, and nothing appeared in the news then. So I went to sleep, and then I think it was, Gail, you were saying maybe an hour or two after that.
Yeah, it was
and
like
then
an hour, 10 minutes.
in typical fashion of them mishandling things slightly before the announcement officially came out. I've seen some of the screenshots now. Everybody received a gift in their gift box, and Tystra, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
All right, so I label it as the 10 stone troll because before they actually made the announcement of the fact that they were refunding all the stones, we log in and sure enough, there's a thing that says, that's 10 dragon stones, that says compensation for step up thank you banner. And everybody lost their mind. 5-9 was actually in the middle of a stream during this, and everybody in chat was like, we just got 10 stones. What Bandai hates us? Oh, Akatsuki, why?
Global shaft, you mean?
Yeah, global shaft the whole time. And it was one of those things to where like we still didn't know, obviously, because they didn't make the announcement. But it was kind of that half meme, half are they really going to just give 10 stones? So like the whole time we're joking about it, but we're like, this really can't be it, right? Like they're really just gonna say, "Here's 10 stones, you know, have fun." So it was a blast for that little bit. Like I think it was 10 minutes until like just before that announcement got made.
So
It felt like 10 minutes, but I think it was a lot less than that actually. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was
Yeah.
going to say, because it was something that I missed happening in real time. How much longer after that 10 stones dropped was the actual announcement and then
I
compensation?
think it wasn't that long, honestly. I think it was like a solid like 5 minutes tops, but it felt like a lot longer because everybody was like screaming over it.
I was going to say, it's an
everything.
eternity on the internet. That's plenty of time for people to be
Yeah.
kicking off about how terrible this was.
It could have been less. It was a very short amount of time, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And you know, like at the time, like they like I think it was just after login when they posted that first announcement.
Mhm.
Or not first announcement, but when we got the 10 stones. And that's when everybody was going off. And then around the time of like, for me, 5:10 p.m., that's when we got the actual like notification like, hey, you're going to be getting your stones back.
Yeah.
So
So the seems like it was a good way to do it. I've seen some screenshots. I was a little bit unclear because again, I'm pretty much waking up to this news all fresh. But so the banner is back and is supposedly fixed now. So I'm assuming that means UI Goku is available.
He is available on the
Step.
banner now. Yes. Yes.
But if you did steps on the banner already, because obviously it came with the 3 cycles at maximum, those have not been reset. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
they haven't
No,
been
they have not.
reset.
Yeah, so if you've done, because in the end, I decided when this, when people started to rumor about the possibility of this being a big enough thing that we could see the first ever stone refund for global, I did decide to jump in and do 1 rotation before the banner went away. But it pretty much proved why I didn't bother summoning on it in the first place, because I think I got 1 usable unit and the GLR was one that I already have rainbowed, so didn't work out the best for me. But obviously I got those 200 stones back. Technically I still have 2 rotations on the banner, but I did what I think a lot of people probably did, and immediately did a couple more summons on the freezer banner. And then didn't get anything, so I did 2 multis, so I'll save those other 100 for whatever comes next. So Gail, you said you did 1 originally. Did you? Was that the only one you ended up doing before it went away?
Yeah, that was the only one I did because for me it was like, well, I'm pretty sure refund is going to come, but either way, it's better to not take a risk because it's global. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, it's at this point I'm just like, I have low expectations anyways, because my thing was going into it was, if they do the bare minimum, my bare minimum that I expected them to do was they'd refund the people who only pulled the Tech LR Super Saiyan 3 Goku, which was the whole error as well. It was like, oh, they replaced UI Goku with Tech LR Super Saiyan 3 Goku and all the other steps instead. And, that was the error basically, or the mistake between the banner basically. So I was like, I'm not going in with full expectations of them refunding or anything. So I'm just gonna do one step, take the units that I got that for the first time, and just head on out pretty much.
Because it's
So
one of those,
I wasn't too fussed with it.
It's one of those risky things where obviously you don't want to jump in and do all 3 cycles and then they don't give us a refund. They give us like 50 stones or something. Especially if you're in a situation like I was where the banner's not super good. Like if you're somebody who could massively benefit from the steps, you either have done them already, or it was probably worth maybe risking it, because then even if you didn't get a refund, at least you probably still got some decent stuff out of it. So I mean, technically all I ended up getting out of it was that one usable unit, but there's a lot of people I'm sure who did all the rotations. Tystra, did you do all 3?
Yeah, I initially did all 3. I made out, I think, pretty good. Last year was a bad year for summoning, so I didn't get a lot of certain units. So I pulled my first Kefla. Finally, she came to me. Pulled STR Kale, which I never pulled her at all since her release. Pulled dupes for LRs, not the ones I wanted, but it's whatever. Overall, my summons weren't that bad, so it's really cool to actually go in all 3 times and get it all for free. So
yeah, exactly. All of that stuff was for free. So what are your plans for those 600 stones? Have they burned a hole in your pocket already, or are you saving those?
No, I'm gonna Dokkan responsibly. I did 150 stones into Frieza before we got these 600 plus back. So I got everything I wanted from Frieza. I got the Frieza and everything. I'm good. So I'm gonna keep these ones for my Gogeta banner fund, and hopefully I can pull him right off the bat. So yeah,
I guess in closing, then the situation is quote unquote resolved now. But what do we think about, aside from I guess the turnaround time, which as we've already discussed is kind of just down to the time of year? Are we happy with the result? I feel like, this being the internet, there's going to be people out there who are still not happy with this somehow. But what do we think overall? I think at the end of the day, depending on what we were expecting, whatever you've set your expectations are for Global, I'm not too bothered about the banner being reset, because if you're somebody who was going to have summoned on it anyway, you got your summons for free. And getting the stones back, regardless of how many you spent, is obviously pretty good. So how do you feel overall? Obviously, we wouldn't have want the issue to have happened in the first place, but how do you feel about how they resolved the issue? So Nalar, how about you? Because I know, JP, you're probably more used to these kind of quick resolutions, whereas Global, a lot of the time, that we have the whole 300 stone meme, but that was because of an issue that occurred on JP, which obviously by the time those banners come to Global, those issues are fixed. So what do you think overall about how this is handled, Nalar?
So I'm back, and it's good. This is what everyone was expecting, and meeting expectations is good. However, I wouldn't have been surprised if there were lesser compensations. I would be disappointed like everybody, even though, I do have a Global account. I did the 3 rotations on that account. But if they did less, I wouldn't shock me. I'd be disappointed like everybody. But I'm glad that this is the appropriate amount of compensation for an issue and an error that they've done before similarly on the JP version. So yeah, it's just what comes out of this now is people will now expect Global to keep that standard up, and whether they will actually continue to meet that, that's to be determined in the future. But just for looking at the event as it is, it's good that it resolved the way it did.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Gail, your thoughts?
No, I think it's perfectly fine what we got. Honestly, it was more than what I was personally expecting. Like I said, my expectations were super tempered, and I really did think that the middle ground would have been just to refund those who actually got affected, which was pulling LR Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I know some people were saying we won't get refunds. I know some people were saying they wanted refunds and another 100 stones, which was, in my opinion, that was never gonna happen. Like, that was a bit too extreme for even Global JP as well, I'd say. Not Global, sorry. But yeah, I think the perfect thing for them was to refund the stones, not reset the banner, because the problem with resetting the banner as well is that it would affect their future banners as well, because people would go back on this banner and people will be less inclined to summon on future banners that may have, side units like cooler and stuff like that, right? So them resetting the banners was never going to happen. I feel it would have just hurt them from a business standpoint, and them refunding was more than ideal anyways. It's free units people got basically, so there's no harm in it. People should be happy with what they got. I mean, I don't see why you would be mad, but I mean, like Nolaran, you said it is the internet, so who knows?
Yeah, the only people who are going to be big mad are the people who decided not to take that risk and do the rotations when the banner was up, because you could have got some free summons. But Tystra, what are your final thoughts on the scenario?
The best business decision that they made was refunding. And I get where people are really wanting that reset. Hell, I would like a reset too. I'd love another 3 chances to pull UI Goku. Unfortunately, what people don't see is the bigger picture. From a business standpoint, it makes no sense to be able to just do another 3 rotations. You're getting double the amount of units. And yeah, you could pull that future LR, but like Gail said, that's going to affect what you think about other banners. So this was the perfect, in my opinion, example of what you should do as a company to nullify the amount of cost that you could deal with and keep your player base happy. So I definitely agree with their decision on this. I think it was a wonderful call. Very surprised, as everyone else is, that we even got a full refund on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I hadn't thought about it a huge amount before we started discussing it, but I can see how resetting the steps would affect these potential banners. But with all the discussion that happened around the step up banner and all the things that we know are coming in the future, in a way, I almost feel like it's good that they weren't reset, solely for the fact that if you did all 3 rotations on this banner, so you just got 600 stones back, you absolutely should be saving those for what's coming next. Your account could be in a position where doing 3 more rotations on this step up banner, you're potentially going to get a ton of good stuff. But I personally think you should probably not do it even if they were reset, because you've now got 600 stones ready and waiting for units like Jiren, Turles, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, all the ones that we know are coming, that I imagine people really had to weigh up whether they were going to do these steps or save those 600 stones anyway. So the fact that you managed to get them all back is very good. And yeah, I agree with basically what we said. With everything that happened, the fact that they took the banner down, admitted there was an issue, which for the longest time we weren't even sure if anything was going to happen at all. I think this was a pretty good way for this to have been resolved. So overall, we always want issues like this to not be present in the first place, but I think we're all pretty much agreed that this was a satisfactory resolution to this issue. So let us know what you guys think down below in the comments. How were you affected? Did you do one or all of the cycles? And then what did you do with those stones? Have you already spent them all already, or are you saving them for one of those big banners that I mentioned that we know are coming? Let us know all of that down below in the comment section. So this is the Masked Ningen for me, Gail, Nalar and Tystra. We will see you later. Stay tuned to all of the 5-9 Gaming Network. Follow all our social medias and all that, and we will all see you all again soon.